Title 42. Customs and Border Patrol sources are saying agents are now catching more than 10,000 people per day. And that number...
Film like some of these other films like Avatar or Top Gun or whatever, but it's resonating with people because it's a message of hope. And it's a true story of a time in American history when it looked like culture was collapsing and people were just turning away from God and turning away from everything.
You do, Harris. Yeah, well, some Kansas students are demanding longtime English teacher Kadron Sullivan lose her job over her criticism of the district's mandatory diversity training. She claims the district is no longer academically focused. In an online op-ed, the Shawnee Mission North High School teacher said, "We are being manipulated and intimidated by a divisive woke ideology that is creating a culture of contempt and disrespect." She went on to say, quote, "There is repeated white shaming and a preoccupation with white people as the oppressor, including staff field trips with a focus on systemic racism. The white saviorism and virtue signaling at DEI meetings is so condescending that many minorities and other staff members have stopped attending." Sullivan also shared her sentiment on Fox Business.
The divisiveness of the DEI message is prompting just a culture of contempt in the building that is intolerable for many of us who work there and have worked there for a long time.
Sullivan maintains that she has a right to her own opinion and she has not lost her job. Harris?
And she does have a right to her own opinion. Kristen, thank you very much. Raymond Arroyo with an encore performance today. Fox News contributor. Look, we couldn't do these cultural topics today without you because you have dug in with multiple colored cards.
Yeah, that's right.
You are ready. Look, I'm just going to stop talking and let you take it away.
Well, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the mandates of that are oppressive in an educational environment. That's what this teacher is talking about. And it's interesting, the students protesting her right to free speech, her objection to these codes, they say she's being hurtful and making me uncomfortable, and therefore the teacher should be fired. Sorry. Everybody needs to get along, and part of this democratic experiment is listening and hearing everyone out, including those who disagree with these made-up codes of diversity, inclusion, and equity that came very late in the day. I'm sorry. People need to compassion, generosity, kindness, civic duty. Those are the things that we should be stressing in the classroom and out, or we're going to get more sad situations.
Does she get to keep her job long term, do you think?
I think she'll keep her job, yeah.
Okay.
I think if they're smart, she will.
Right, because
you want independent thinking teachers.
Yeah, and then you get the parents involved, and we know what everybody thinks about us.
Yeah.
Especially the DOJ. Okay, we've seen it before. President Biden's Department of Homeland Security going after regular citizens. New records show the department considered training videos that would target what they called radicalization suspects. One of them, a suburban pro-life mom. And one scenario involved her behavior in a prayer group discussion. The Foundation for Freedom calls these so-called suspects are not violent terrorists or extremists. They are typical everyday Americans with typical everyday American opinions. So I see a collusion there. Parent and faith.
Yeah, that's a toxic brew, apparent, according to the government. Look, what you really have here is the federal government, once again, labeling a pro-life mother here as the beginning of an ISIS cell. I mean, that's what they're talking about. But when you read down the description, the red flag that they've found is, after her mother's death, she became a devout believer. It is her faith that makes her the target of the federal government, and they're targeting her as a domestic terrorist. I think because there's an allegiance and a depth of belief here apart from the state. That makes her dangerous. And we've seen this, Harris. The FBI targeting conservative Catholic churches where they perform the Latin Mass, celebrate the Latin Mass. Why? Because these people are independent thinkers who are devoted to their family and their faith. That makes them a threat. This is like China. This is what China does. Their greatest fear in China is free-thinking people with a faith and an allegiance apart from the state. That's what we're dealing with here. Well, and turning Americans into spies, which is what this encourages. That's what this is really about. Attuning Harris Faulkner and Raymond Arroyo to look out among our coworkers and see how many radicals are we encountering today. And
no. I think they'd be looking at me. I'm the one who's always saying be bold with your faith. I would be targeted.
Well,
it's
I've
not the
written
other
a
way
few
around.
things about faith, too.
They couldn't depend on me for that.
We'll be in the gulag together. We'll have fun.
Goodness. Okay. Scientists in the UK reporting that England's first babies with 3 parents each were born. That means the babies have DNA from 3 different people. While experts say this new technology could help prevent genetic disorders, some argue that it's an ethical slippery slope to designer babies, people taking over natural selection and basically playing God. Raymond.
I want you to meet Frankenstein Jr. There he is. This is really a problem. I'll tell you why. Look, the UK have decided to bless and legalize this technology, which is basically taking the egg, pulling the nucleus out of it, getting another embryo's egg, and inserting that. So it takes 3 donors to make this happen, okay? Mitochondrial donation, they call it. It's to screen out germs and diseases. Okay, the problem is you have to kill an embryo to make this happen. You have to take another life, a fertilized embryo, and you have to kill that embryo to make this process happen. There's ethical and moral problems here, but we're on the path to designer babies.
So what's interesting about that, so we both did reading for this to be up on it. A lot of the scientific was at the bottom of the article. That's not, I mean, they're basically marketing the idea, if you will, of more participation for a perfect population.
Yeah, I don't like this idea because it is our imperfections. It's the perceived problems and special needs that the world sees that often create the greatest human possibilities. People I know, Mother Angelica, a woman born with spinal defects, that spinal defect made her turn to God. She created the largest religious network in the world. Again, sometimes the imperfections of the world are the ways God moves you in a new direction. How dare any of us try to screen those out or flatten them? I worry about this. This will not end well, particularly as you get more and more partners involved in one child's birth.
That was so beautifully said and very, very important for us to hear. We aren't meant to be perfect in any way. And you know what? You could fix all the genetics and the physicality that you want, but the Lord can put a divine assignment on you, and the only thing that will matter are what you can do for another.
I agree. I agree.
And those who could offer you nothing more than their company, you can't make everything perfect.
Well, and if you met a child with Down syndrome or a child with an extra chromosome, you see the love that it draws out of the family
and
the
that
love
you
they
can give. Right, we both said it.
They're gifts of God. They're gifts of God. How dare we try to screen that out or block them? It's a stupid idea.
This is a tough picture to go